Hi, I'm Alex Stutchbury and welcome to Art Class, a series of videos designed to teach you the skills needed to create great artwork. Today we're going to look at portraiture and in particular creating tonal portraits using watercolour paint.
So am I able to show the 3D form of a face effectively using tone, and can I also layer it up to show textures, midtones and shadows?
Now with this piece, we're not going to jump to full colour tonal ranges like the ones behind me, but we're going to keep it monochromatic, so it's going to be a single colour but still showing a realistic tonal range going from light to mid-tone to dark. So it's still going to look three-dimensional and it's still going to look realistic, but I want you to think about and maybe pick a relevant or suitable colour for the person that you are painting. Off we go.
So here are some key tips which I will go through as I show you the process in the demonstration. The first one is key. Build up layers of paint washes. Don't go too dark too quickly. Start with a lighter tone, like a pale mid-tone, and apply it on all of the dark areas, anything darker than white highlight. So even something like the eyes or the car shadow on an otherwise white collar, apply that wash on. You're going to go darker later, as you can see now with these next layers as you apply, and each time you're going to use a bolder consistency of paint with less water on the brush to make it thicker and denser.
If you're struggling to create the correct tones and you're not quite sure where to go, perhaps create a tonal ladder first on a little separate piece of paper. Perhaps make it very faint and build it up to a really dark tone at the bottom, and then you can refer to that when you're looking at the photograph you're working from to see how light or dark it needs to be.
Here's the tonal ladder I produced when I was working on the Pep Guardiola piece. So these next stages are important. Each time you add a darker layer, you're actually painting a smaller percentage of the actual face, because it's building up almost like a pyramid of darker and darker tones. But at the same time, whilst you're letting some bits dry on the head itself, paint in a background. Make it dark in the background where the head is lighter, so it can stand out. So you can see the right hand side is much darker behind his shiny head and ear, whereas the left hand side is slightly paler behind. And by building up these tones, you get this really good outcome.
Okay, so there was one really cool example which worked out. I was using something called the Prussian blue, and that creates a very dark tone at the very top end, so it's always easy to get that full tonal range. This next one I'm going to show you is using red, so a different colour to show the same process and how it can be applied. But what you'll notice is the red doesn't go as dark as you want. So actually what I might do is I might mix a little bit of the primary blue into the red just to darken it ever so slightly when you're trying to get those very darkest tones on things like the hair and the beard. Have a watch.
So this picture's of Mohamed Salah. You can see again, you start with these pale washes and it all looks a little bit flat. It doesn't look particularly clear at this stage, but that's how it's meant to be. You can add more and more layers on as you build it up, and you will notice some bits starting to become a little bit more apparent. It's only until this stage when you start putting your sort of third layer on that it really stands to life. Also, a good little trick, leave the top of the hair white because it looks like it's catching the light from above. This is the stage where I was saying where I put a little bit of blue into it, almost turning it slightly purplish for red, and so you can get this higher contrast for the really darkest parts of the hairs, the stubble, texture around his face.
So there you go, a tricky style, but if you do it well, it can come out with excellent outcomes and they can look really realistic. Now, it is hard to do and you're going to need to take some practice and trial it a few times, so it might be worth perhaps tracing out your outline a couple of times onto different bits of paper first so you can have a couple of goes at it. But actually, if you get it right, it can be really effective. Okay, there's a couple of key things just to remember, and I'll put the points up in a moment. You must always remember to leave highlights completely white. Don't feel like you have to paint every part of the page. You want that full tonal range, and the contrast will only be created if you leave some bits white and then make other bits really dark. build up those layers, like I said, and you can see how there's light midtones, darker midtones, and then the very darkest layers. Getting it dark in the background to contrast with areas which are lighter on the head, or making it lighter if it's darker actually in this part of the jaw, for example. And also, if you look really close, make sure you've got those techniques where you're trying to represent the textures, so not smooth blending, but actually dabbing on the paint, or little flicks, little lines. You can see it the same with this one here, where you've built up the layers to show the hair and the density of the hair.
Here are some other examples in the same colour schemes of Messi and Mourinho respectively. Again, you can see that high contrast on both of them. So the key bits to remember: you must get those layers of washes building up. You must always leave those lightest white areas bright white so it contrasts the most. You need that full tonal range. Dab, flick and hatch to create the textures on the hair, the beard, wrinkles, and remember to frame that face, so making it dark in the background if it's light or next to a light area of face, or making or leaving it light in the background so it contrasts with a really dark shadowed area.
So, I hope you have some fun with this one. Give it a go, because it is tricky, but it's really rewarding if you get it right. I look forward to seeing how you get on. My name's Alex Stutchbury. Goodbye.